Okay, ladies and gentlemen, in this video I'm going to show you how to initialize a one-dimensional array. So an array is a way of storing data. We are then going to use that array to populate a list box, and then we are going to do a very simple linear search. So there's quite a few skills in this video. So I've called my video 1D array 2017 version 2. You can of course call it whatever you like. I always like to prefer that my naming convention is camel cased and that it's all one word. Always make sure create directory for solution is ticked. Okay, so in this form I'm only going to do a couple of things. I'm going to put in a button. In my properties of my button, I'm going to make the name BTN search. Remember that that is Hungarian notation. First three letters tell you what it is. The next name part actually tells you the name of the control. Search. And make it so you can actually see what you're doing. I'm going to put in a text box okay, just for consistency I'll change some properties here, so I want to call it txt search. Where it goes into multi-line, I want that to be true. Not that I want them to enter more than one thing, I just want the size to be a bit more consistent. And that's really it. So that's my search area. And just so you can see what's happening, I'm going to put in a list box. This list box is just going to be called LST display, and we're going to populate that one in a moment. On my form load, I want to do a few things. Firstly, get rid of this button. Up here, before I have any subroutines, I can declare anything that I want to use on the form. So I'm going to declare what's called an array here. Declare my array. I'm going to give it just let's go 9, and as we know in Visual Basic we start counting at 0, so even though I've written 9 it means that this array can actually hold 10 pieces of information, and the type of data I want to include is called a string. I'm also going to declare a variable called max, and I want this to be equal to so what this little function does, it's called getUpperBound. So you can see when I hover over it tells me gets the index of the last element of the specified dimension in the array. So all it does, this is my dimension here. So I'm looking for the very first column. Now there is only one column, so that's fine. And it tells me to count how many rows are there. So that's all I need to do in my declaration of variables at the moment. All I'm going to do now is just fill the array with data. So my array 0 equals, and I'll just put in my name. So I'll do that one more time. Put in my last name. And I'll pause the video and I'll just populate. So I've just finished my 10 elements there, just some names of people in my family. So what I'm going to do now, so the next thing I'm going to teach you is what is called a for to next loop. And what that does is basically repeats some instructions or some code that you give the program, as many times as you tell it to. So all you need to do for that, you declare an integer, and I just call it I just as a placeholder. We start it off at 0, and we want it to go through the loop the maximum amount of time. Now remember that max was this variable here, which counted how many rows, how many sort of rows were in the column, first column. So all we're doing here is filling the list box with whatever is stored in the value represented by I. So the first time it goes through the loop, I is 0, so the list box will have Scott. The second time, I is 1, so the list box will have Tracy. So let's run that now. You can see my program's run. Here's my list box with all my items. Press here, nothing happens. Here, nothing happens, of course. But it's actually filled the list box with exactly what was in here, which now brings us on to our next aspect of coding. So what I'm going to do here is double click on the search button. And there's a couple of things I want to do. Let's open it up in here. Thanks for that. Okay, so I want to declare a variable called j, and that's again just for placeholding. I also want to declare a variable called found. That'll be a boolean, and as you know from our previous videos, that's either true or false, and we use that to help us with searching. So what I'm going to do now is also do another type of loop. This is called a do until loop. So I want to repeat this loop until found is assigned the value true, or j equals max. Alright, let's not do equals, let's do greater than max. So anything I put in here, it's going to happen, it's going to keep doing until this boolean is either assigned to true or until it gets to the end of the list. So I need to do a couple of things here. What I'm going to do is declare what's called S1. You'll understand this as I keep going in a minute. So what I'm going to do Okay, so a few little bits of code there. So what I'm doing is, in this loop, the first string I'm grabbing is from the first item here. I'm converting it to a string, and I'm converting it all to uppercase, and it just means whatever case that someone types in, it'll still search. I'm then going to declare something called S2 as a string, and that's going to be equal to whatever they've actually put in the TXT search. Again, to upper as well. I'm then going to declare another variable called search contains as a boolean, and this will be returned as true if S1, so that first string, actually contains what's in S2. So if whatever I've typed in here is contained in there, it's going to declare that as true. So no more declarations here. If search contains equals true, then found is also equally true. We're going to actually select the index that we found, and that is given the value j. And then I might even just put in some little, for some validation, just a message box. Person found at position and then I'll just ask it to tell me what that position is. Actually, I could just put J as the variable there. Else J equals J plus 1. In the do while loop, in the for to next loop, it incremented that I ourselves, but it does not do that in a do until. You actually have to do the incrementation here. So all I've done is just added that to there. If then I get to the end of my loop and I haven't found anything, so we're still false, I'm just going to put a message box. Person not in list. So let's see how we go now. It's successful build, so I can type in here SCOTT, and it's found it. Person found in position 1. I could also just type in CY. Tracy, person found in position 2. Now that's all very well, and what will happen if you've got some letter combinations that are the same, like I guess Scott has an SCO and so does Cody, it's just going to find the first one in the list. The other thing that we can do is have a look at some of the other events here, and I can double click on this one, which is called text change. We can actually start this entire process when the text is changed in the search bar. So that way, what would happen is when I run my program, it's actually real time searching, and if I take away that message box, because otherwise that'd be really frustrating, I type in ROX, you know, you're seeing what's happening here. I might do NA, find Adam, or I might type in Jeff, person not in list. So you can see there what we've done today. We've declared an array, we've found how many elements are in that array, we've populated that array, we've then used that array to populate a list box, and then we've done a linear search, which searches every aspect, every element in the array, for example, one at a time, to find out if our actual data is there. Hope you enjoyed this video.